Lab. I am Argyro Barata. I am curator of Reworks Agora, which is a forum of ideas that is taking place in Thessaloniki, Greece. We are here in the context of the Creative Europe program, We Are Europe, which is a collaboration between, it's better here? Okay. Which is a collaboration with 8 major festivals around Europe. And we, as a collective, we are trying to promote the future developments in culture and, of course, raise wider issues around society and politics. We have already been working like 3 years now altogether, and we have ahead of us another 3-year round. And what we are doing differently this time is that we are also all together trying to put up a list of people, personalities that they are European, and they're trying to promote diversity, alternative ideas, and they are from different fields like artists, journalists, activists, and we are very inspired by their work, and that's why we are presenting them to you. And we hope that you are also get inspired by their work. You can see a couple of our people from the list here with a few quotes, which we invite you to check out. And of course, check out the rest of the people that they are part of this list. So we are here to talk about storytelling and trying to understand what is actually the narrative that can mobilize people to take action and come forward. And we have here a beautiful crowd of people, which I would like to present them to you. From my right, it's Michael Kolchesky. I hope I said right. She's a professional photographer and expert in virtual reality. She runs her own company, 360 Solutions. Visual Solutions, and she has been involved in many social issue projects, and she's also a vice president of the Association of Virtual Reality Professionals, correct?
IVRPA.
Yeah, perfect. Next to me, it's Paul Poet. You have many hats, as I understand. You are a filmmaker, you are an activist, you are a journalist, and I'm sure you're doing many, many more stuff. And you, with your work as a filmmaker, you are mixing pop culture and politics in a different format and way. And here on my left is Stratis Vogiatzis. He's a photographer, filmmaker, and anthropologist. He has done many community-based projects in Greece, but not only in Greece. And his latest work, Caravan Project, which you will share with us more information, is trying to put through storytelling to bring social inclusion in different isolated communities around Greece. I really love this format that we are having here. We feel like we are more part of a group talking with each other. So please feel free to ask questions whenever you feel like we are not the experts and you are just a crowd ahead of us. I respond very well to this, so feel free to ask me whenever you want to our friends here. So, let's start. Let's take it from the very, very basic, and this is a question for all of you, is, and I will start with you, Stratis. In your opinion, what is the main characteristics of a story that can actually mobilize people to take action?
Hello, nice to be here. Okay, the main characteristic of a story, I don't know, she has to have long hands and to be very tall with very blonde, long hair.
And what sign? Leo.
I don't know. What are the characteristics of a story? Yeah, I think that, of course, we are all stories is like an ancient way of learning the world and learning ourselves. As well. So everybody loves stories. Everybody wants to talk stories. Everyone wants to dive in himself or herself inside stories. What makes a story interesting? I think that depending of the story, depending of the issue. I mean, like if we're talking about politics and activism and stuff like that, especially stories that can take you out to the streets or can make you engage in a certain action. And let's say it's, I don't know, like it's an environmental story or a story about the refugee crisis and stuff like that, and you want to do a story about that. I think that personally, what I do, I'll try the story to have as many aspects of the topic that I try to give a narration about, and this is the external reality of the story. And at the same time, I think that what fascinates me personally in the stories is when they have something that is kind of metaphysics. I don't know how to describe it. They have a certain kind of magic that can touch the viewer in a way that you cannot put it in a paper. You cannot really interpret how they do it. You cannot really, you know, like have a method about that. So it's difficult for me to say what is that. But I remember, you know, like a photographer says that, you know, if you want to take a picture first, you turn the camera inwards before you turn the camera outwards. So I think that it has to have this kind of personal truth inside the story of the topic that you wanted to narrate. And somehow the external topic to be baptized in your own kind of emotionals, in your own kind of fears, your own kind of agonies and longings. And then when you narrate someone this story, then the person that is viewing that to engage not only with the topic that you describe, but also in these personal, very subtle feelings that you will convey through your personal experience.
Mm-hmm. For you, Paul?
Well, I see it a little less nicely. I could take an example from my own work. It's like, as you all know, the Austrian government just collapsed. It was partied yesterday on Ballhausplatz with fucking Wenger boys. Mm-hmm. So it's very party-like. It's very hedonistic. It's not like street cars are burning, the streets are burning, where people are like, you. Mm-hmm. And
would you like to say something about what actually brought the government down? What was this video and all about that for our people that might not know the story?
In Austria, it was like a film that leaked of government members that were just...
Vice President, right?
The Vice President, Vice Chancellor.
Vice Chancellor.
Vice Chancellor and the second mayor of Vienna. Okay. And they were like snorting away on cocaine with the niece of an oligarch or a girl that played the niece of an oligarch. They did a secret video of them being high on vodka, Red Bull and cocaine. And they were like talking about how they sell away Austria and the whole republic and like whatever, just to impress her and make deals. So this leaked. They had a 6-minute excerpt that went into all the big media in Germany and Austria, and the whole government collapsed because they had to go into corruption inspection. And this was by investigative journalism. This happened. The last time when we had a very right-wing corrupt government was in the year 2000. That's when I put up with Christoph Schlingensief a container that was built after the Big Brother movement. It was like a reenactment of how a concentration camp would work in the 21st century, because it was like we put like 12 asylum seekers in there, and like the Austrian government or the people could vote them out of the country on a daily play basis. So it was making fun of the whole xenophobia that was official through the state. And that, and we had this container or concentration camp or Big Brother camp for a week out there, and that was like public mayhem that went all around the world. And up to this point, like the right-wing government was in business 6 months then. And they freaked out, certainly, because like it made it was a lot of like very extreme right-wingers that made official politics, and they tried to keep a straight face. No, we wouldn't throw foreigners out. They did daily, but not like today, not like in Trump times now, because now people are very unashamed, or politicians, to deal with xenophobia or like pull people out of the country or shame them. But then everybody had to be a straight face, and this action we did was like really pulling the mask off, and that really put like the knife into the public consciousness. I think for art to get this voice and to reach people, and this reached like 1 million back then, that was like counted through the direct interaction through the web. This really brought them to a degree down, made people aware. And you really, I mean, we live in very clean times, very effective times, and in times where technicality is put into a divine place. It gets more and more complicated to feel where's the social pain, where's the political pain. But everybody knows the pain is out there. So I think you have to find these places where the pain sits and just uncover it truthfully. This can be playful. The uncovering can be fun, but you have to find it and get it to the people, and people will appreciate it. Not at first. At first, they probably want to punch you, but in the second phase, it's like public therapy.
It's really interesting what you're saying about trying to find where pain is. But in virtual reality, is that also so? Do you have to understand other characteristics of a story in order to be featured in a virtual reality world?
Yeah, of course. In virtual reality, it's different storytelling. Of course, all storytelling have a story. But as you see 360 degrees spherical worlds, you enter the world, you are more impacted by things. When you wear a mask, you are inside. So you have to be very careful how you tell the story. You have different kinds of technical issues, how to tell the story correctly. But you cannot hide anything. Well, especially in documentary approach, of course, you can hide things and manipulate it in every media. But in documentary, when you put the camera in 360 degrees, you see everything, or you can see everything if you want to. And the point of view is where you choose to look. You give the audience the choice in virtual reality, usually, where to look. And this is very interesting, a point of view, because when you give a choice to somebody and you're not forcing him to see something, this is a big power that you give them. And virtual reality is such a progressing and developing that today we can have many different kinds of expression and tools how to do stuff. Also in augmented reality, we can mix different kind of technique, and we can create a infinite creativity. It's infinite.
We are now seeing an example of your work. Who us through what we are looking at? What is all of this about?
Actually, this one, it was in 2015. I shoot inside of a cockpit of Air France. I was one of the privileged person to enter the cockpit and to film. I was very honored. After September 11, there was a very security. Nobody was allowed to enter a cockpit and to film. So I was inside, and this is actually the experience how to be inside. So virtual reality, you can see everywhere, and you're inside of somewhere that you will never have the chance to be. So this is like a jumping from a plane. You can, more sportive, but also as a story of somebody that tells something, be in front of somebody that you will never meet in a normal life, in his house, his environment. So it's very powerful tool.
Also, another thing that I'm always very curious of is, how to find a good story, what actually triggers you to get involved with something, how you find this pain, and what makes you say that okay, I will go through that. Is that your personal empathy on an issue, for example, Paul, or it is something that is going on or around you that you say, I have to say something about that?
I never thought about it.
Okay, good.
It was like in Austria they always named me like a natural born rebel. I don't know. It's like I was raised like in 10 different cultures because my father was an oil engineer, and I saw like the whole exploitation that went on in Africa and Far East, and everything that was good and went wrong with Europe. So I had like throughout the 70s and 80s in my childhood also already experience with war, with like abuse, with like commercial exploitation. And from a very early age, like I begged to differ. So I went against like what my parents taught me. I became like a punk with 13, 14. And then just taught myself through like all squatted houses, through like the whole counter networks to deal with these issues. And now I'm like the more regarded like political journalist, provocative filmmaker, but I still deal with the same issues. It's like I just go out and feel where there's something wrong, and mostly people approach me. It's like my last film, I told you before, which was like kind of precursor film to the Me Too movement, and this was also just a woman that approached me and told me about her life. That was like, she was like in her mid-50s and was like bookended with sexual abuse from the age of 6 until like when I met her. And she came out of a commune of a very famous Austrian artist, Otto Mühl, who was also in jail for child abuse. But the whole story of her horror and the horror of her children, the whole commune, never was fully unveiled. So she was silenced for 20 years right after the court trial, and she searched for someone. She went to famous politicians, went to famous journalists, and so on. Then she just met me, and I decided to like, you can create this thing. So we just had like more 6 months psychotherapeutic process to put it like in one narration, and I made an interview film that was more or less a trained talk between us. There was more like a free form fight, and it was mainly just 2 hours of uncut footage of that was her telling a story. We needed the training that she could tell it in one thing, and it was kind of, and still leave enough things open. But it was very political to the degree that she was like the voice of a woman that is like, can talk for 2 hours unmanipulated and get the full screen. And I was just 8, so this was like, this became not a very known film because people are still squeamish tackling the issue of child abuse, of sexual abuse, but it had some immediate, very very well-known fans like Rose McGowan and other women that were involved with the Me Too movement, and they took it up as inspiration. And then this whole thing happened afterwards.
Amazing,
and now
amazing.
I had a bloody war to get this film out with the government in Austria. Then Me Too came, and now everybody knew. It's like, oh, we must give the women a voice.
But yeah, that is what is actually what moves me personally, and I hope you too as well, is that you are giving voice to unheard voices, to voices that there are unknown. And this actually is an amazing thing. And for example, with your work, Stratis, with Caravan Project, you gave voice to many, many communities around Greece. So how do you believe Caravan Project helped redefine a little bit the status quo of these communities in Greece?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole Caravan Project idea.
Please share a few words for people to understand what was Caravan Project in general. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We are. I'm sharing well.
Yeah.
Okay. We started doing some films in the beginning of the crisis in Greece in 2011. You know, about people. We wanted to to search for stories. Because we believed in the power of story, and we thought that we can translate story into different forms of narratives or to different forms of projects or community projects. So we filmed, like we did around 30 small, medium documentaries, and then the next 2 years we were going around Greece with 2 huge, and we set them up in various communities, and we interact with the people in the communities over there to define the stories that they were important of the communities, and then trying to transform the stories, to give them new forms, either as an education program or as a community art project or just a documentary festival or just as an instigator for dialogue and personal engagement. So our whole thinking, it was a multi-layer project. I mean, like both anthropological and artistic and community and a little bit political. But the essence of that, it was these spaces that created the possibilities of people to come together and through creativity, through co-creation, to start documenting and narrating the stories that they think they're important for the community. What was the question?
I was saying that how this project actually helped redefine the status quo of these isolated communities. And I'm saying that because I have a personal experience from one of your projects. When you were in Thessaloniki, I remember that you were also doing some documentary workshop for the Roma community of the city. And I was there, and I do remember these kids going there and learn how to film, how to use the montage platforms and stuff. And actually, I know that they're now filming by themselves and trying to tell by themselves their stories out to the world.
Yeah, that's the idea through the workshops that we did both with children in schools and both with adults, to give them the tools and the possibilities to create something by their own. But to create that through a kind of co-creation, as I said before, process, that we are not the ones that we have the idea and the methodology and the experts that tell them how to do, but together we try to find the ways, we try to find the how to tell a story, how to do the research, how to use the tools that we have available in our hands. So I think this whole process of empowerment taught us a lot, both regarding the process of filmmaking, both of how people, what they think is important, how they state themselves, how they articulate a voice. As you said before, you know, normal people that they don't have a voice, are either marginalized or they never had the opportunity to have a camera and a microphone. You know, these are very powerful tools, and beside the power that they have, that you can go out and speak out to the world, they have a big responsibility. And you know, we're living in a world that is saturated for images and stories and all these things. So we have really to fight for finding our own way to say things, you know. And this co-created, you know, environment was it was very revealing for us, and we really want to push it forward. I mean, like now we're working in prison, and we really want to learn and explore other forms of narratives, how we can do things all together, what are these people think important, how they translate it into a story, all these kind of things I see now, you know, like Michael and this beautiful, you know, like technological out of space instrument. We want to use these things as well, you know, to find out how to use it, you know, and to be in a playful mood, you know, like to try and experiment, you know, because we realize that if you form a space where people, they think that they can connect, because a part of the story, a part of the product, I mean, of the whole process, there is a kind of not material substance that exists in between the community, and this is the connections, the personal connections that you have, you know, all these subtle things that happen in between you and the people, And yeah, all these things we want to push forward and explore more. Sorry, I talked a lot.
And
it's a big project, sorry.
No, and an amazing one, and I really invite you to check it out. But now that you were talking a lot about these personal connections, I was wondering, is it difficult for you to approach communities when you want to film in a VR? Do they, because it's not such a, you know, it's not a medium that it's well understood by many people. Do you find it difficult to approach them and tell them to be part of a project that you want to be involved in?
No, I feel it's even easier. Because usually the simple cameras, 360 cameras, they are very not normal cameras. So it's not you come to somebody and you film him. So it's more like, oh my God, I have a camera in front of me. It's something it's something that people think it's a microphone, or it's something, you know, it's a tripod. So it's easier. It's like actually, the 360 came from security cameras. So this is interesting. It comes from the military. It comes from the scientists, NASA. It developed by these groups that actually developed this kind of technology. That you have cameras, you have little sensors that you don't see, but they see everywhere. They watch you. It's like the big brother. But if you use it for this kind of course, you need to have integrity. You have to tell the people they are being filmed. It's not, we are not a camera, how do you say it, a back camera that films things. But you can use it like this way. People are very enthusiastic. Even if you go to the jungle and you put on somebody a headset, it's like it's the first time he sees TV or anything like that. Even today, for people that do films, if you put the headset, they are amazed and they are, wow, it's great, and they want to be involved because it's infinity possibility. Also for education, it's amazing.
It's a new world.
It's amazing tool. I think it's the future, and in schools that you can, especially today that we are talking about climate change, that the world that we are living here, maybe tomorrow it's gone. It's very important for me as a creator of contents of 360, and also of my colleagues. I have colleagues that film in Syria, some archaeological sites that today they are destroyed. You have a chance today to visit them in 360. So it's a power to reconstruct history, to tell the history, to tell the stories, and also to teach the new generation what we had and how we can explore the world and not only fly and go there, you know, even.
Yeah, sure. No, the microphone.
I want to ask you something about VR because, as I told you before, you know, I found it really an amazing new way, you know, to experience things. And I want to ask you what you think there are the limitations now in the VR, if there are any limitations. And what you think about, you know, like the source of information of someone receiving, you know, because we are trained, I mean, like either in, you know, like in literature to read something, or in film, we see something, we think about. And what happens if we have like informations that coming from all over us, you know, and how we can process all these informations in the news environment that is coming?
Well, it's important question, and it's hard to tell because VR, it's changing all the time, you know, because you have companies that develop it, you have companies that shut down. It's very hard in this sense that today's tools will not be tomorrow tools. So you have to be very flexible. Also in the term of cost, when you want to do a very high quality Film, it costs maybe 3 times more to do it. So in documentary, it's very hard to find finance. Usually it's self-production, so it's hard. But in other terms, there's more companies that comes with little cameras that do 4K, films that you can broadcast in YouTube or use the platform that you have today. It's more easier than so there's always a way to do stuff. And in terms of what you can do, the sky is the limit, really. It's infinite possibilities, even more than you think.
But one of the things that I found it really exciting is that, in virtual reality, you can actually draw new audiences because they are more, curious about this technology, and maybe it helps you actually spread the message even wider out there. Do you see that people are responding well in watching content through virtual reality?
Well, it depends which content. Of course.
Yes, because we are mainly, it's an entertainment, gaming experience mainly.
It's not only gaming, it's also immersive. People are mixing stuff, 3D, AR. There's many work to do to actually educate people, also how to use it properly and how to find the good films to watch. Because today we don't have distribution that you can find easily the good films like you have in TV. So in this case, you need to really to look for good films. Sometimes you can watch really bad film and think, oh my God, this is VR, I don't want to be involved in it. But it's not true. There's it's everywhere. Like a new medium, there's lots of experimental, lots of many people jumping in and do whatever they do. But yeah, you need to really look. And also I think it's very interesting how AR is integrating in the VR, especially for educational stuff. When you use the telephone, if every child today have a telephone, so to look for something and that will bring you something, it's very interesting in the space. I don't know if I explain myself very well.
But thank you for opening up the whole spectrum of distribution, because the distribution system is the way of spreading the message out. Your work, Paul, it's highly acclaimed and it has been screened in different film festivals all around the world. So what is your opinion about distribution system and or even how film festivals can actually be of aid in order to spread messages out?
Oh, complicated question, because well, it basically sucks. I mean, it's like we have so many possibilities, like never before in history, to not be seen.
To not be seen. Okay, please elaborate in that. I like that.
I mean, I was lucky with film festivals and this whole recognition worldwide. With all my films, I gathered quite okay film distributors, but like the whole television distribution system worldwide is so commercialized and so commercial in the thinking. Like if you go off the beaten path, it's like you just get ignored. And audience are trained to ignore them as well. So it's just slowly through the internet, through the opening of the internet gets tightened again. Like the whole VOD internet system gets more and more tight again by the big players. So to be political and to be like provocative, it's like you really are pushed to the margins. And people see you, but it's really like super small. Even like my films can be seen on Amazon USA, but still it's somewhere in there. It's like people don't really recognize, and it's like it gives too little money back to really invest into new projects, so like really hit people. So the best thing is like in music to self-distribute and really build up your whole family of recognition, and like it's really like grassroots movements. It's like where you gather the people that really dig what you do and understand and get educated by it and learn from themselves. But this is a big development that's still needed, because people get so, I mean, we're so trained to be very fast in our recognition of things and of art in general. It's like, it has to be like tick, tick, tick. 01, 01, 01, 01. It's like with digitalization, it's like people rarely invest the time it's needed to really have art to grow with you and have you grow. So it needs this like counter-culture movement again, like they were in the 60s, 70s, 80s. These forms have to reinvent themselves for the 21st century, I think, for this art to be really present in the minds. So it's good to have like platforms like this to spread it as well, but it needs a lot of audience cooperation and awareness.
Exactly, and because if we are talking of how to mobilize people through storytelling, you know, it's one step to learn about an issue and get the information during watching a documentary, for example, and it's a totally another thing, get out of your couch. So how can you bridge this, how can we bridge this distance between getting the information and getting off the couch?
There are no easy keys. It's like the example with my talk with Florence, the sexual violence film. It's because it's taboo. You go in there. It's like, you know, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are victims, or like people that have been victimized by these things happening. Still, all the people that need this education is like 99% look away. So still you can put a film out, and by mouth propaganda, people get aware this film can help you. Even to get the tools to not like say, ooh, it's terrible, but to really deal with this issue, see it, fight it, grow against it. But people have fear to go into this. So it's like the audiences that really watch it or really learn from it are very small. It works, and it's very great as an artist to feel like get this feedback all over the world from women or people that were victims of these violations to really learn to defend themselves through it. But it's very small how this gets more and more.
And I believe it's also interesting how social media also help expand the cycle of a film, of a project, because you can continue the communication through another media, like I don't know, if you're using Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. Do you use any communication through social media during your project? And did you see that there were actually help you to get people involved more? Because your project was a lot, it had a real base at the same time, because you were moving around different cities and people can actually see you and meet you. Did all this experience help you to mobilize more people around the issues that you got involved?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm really, you know, like, I'm not the right guy to speak about social media, I think, because I don't have an Instagram. I don't have an Instagram. Facebook, I rarely get inside. And we did a project that was like based in social media, you know. We have to be in cities and mobilize people and stuff
but
like
you
that.
had also people with you who were actually knew how to use this. So
It's true. I don't know, of course, you know, it's common practice now. We have to use it as much as possible. I mean, I think there were people talking to us about from Arte that they were saying to us, you know, there is no need to do a platform, you know, like to do a web page, to do a web doc, you know, or even to do a film, you know, just put it in the Facebook, 3 minutes, you know, in square screen. Don't put sound, just put big big letters, you know, and that's it, man. This is the way that people read reality, learn about reality, and it's the proper way to devote the little time that they have in the topic that they want to search. So it becomes really depressing, you know, this kind of thing, this kind of short, very short time space that you give to something that you're interested in. And we know, everybody knows that if something is really valuable, you have to spend time, you have to dive yourself into the story, you have to research, because everything is in the world is so complicated and they are so deep. Even this glass of water, if you really want to search, it's the infinite behind it. So all this little, very little time span and all this logic about that everything has to adapt in this kind of neurotic way of living that we have is going to madness, you know, because we are programmed to consume content, you know, like fast and fast, and we are already saturated, but we need more, and we don't know what to do, and because we don't know what to do, we want to consume even more and to be even faster than we used to be. And everybody says, because you have to follow the dance, the tendency, yeah, that you have to adapt in this new environment. So we have to adapt. I don't know, but at the same time, as poet, what a beautiful surname, man. His name is Poet. He says that you have to find other ways as well, you know. You have to find grassroots organization, you have to do exhibition, you have to do books, I mean, for me, the ideal word in a story is to find a story that you really crave to do something about this. And these stories open a new world for that. And suddenly all these things that you want to talk about, they're interlinked. But it also gives you the possibility to speak and to use very different forms of putting the story out and do things regarding the story. So that means social media, working with organizations, making a book, making an exhibition, and all this somehow be like the guru that somehow link all these forms and possibilities in order the story to reach broader audiences.
You wanted to comment something?
Yeah, about the social media. I can really reflect with everything that you say, because I think we are the same generation. But it's really important today. Even if it's not us that we do it, we need somebody that will manage it. Because if you want to affect really the new generation, as we say, we need to connect to them, and this is the connection we have. Even if we don't believe in it, that is true, and maybe it's not true, because nothing is true on the web. Mm-hmm. We need to touch and be and look at the eyes of each other, that we don't do it anymore. But this is the connection with that we have with the Generation Z, or the Millennium generation, exactly, or the new generation that will come. So if it's like the frustration that we are not heard, we cannot put our films, like Paul say, we are not accepted because we are controversial. We are talking about something that people are afraid to talk about, to look at the mirror. This is the platform. This is the way to do it. Even if there will be hateful, things, we need to deal with it. Or we need to, pay somebody that will do it for us. So.
Of course, yes, we cannot do everything. We should always
be
find
a
a way to
poet,
look for the right people to help us out, for sure. But for me, it's very fascinating how easily you can be in touch with the people that produce something or make it happen, because you can write a comment and where can I get more information about this issue, or you can send a message saying how can I help, or where can I meet you, and this thing, I believe it's very valuable to your work. What is your opinion, Paul, about social media and how they can be a platform to, maximize the audience? And
it's just a tool. I mean, it's both times. It's like a whole of the stuff I'm doing. It's like even back to the container, that was a pioneer thing that worked mainly because it was also web presence, because you interacted through the internet. That was still in the year 2000, where it was in its baby's shoes. The whole social media thing. It's great to gather audience at the same time to play, because it's a voice as well, and you can play it out artistically. It's the interesting thing is, like, never checked out VR to use it, because I use all this media not just to get audiences, but to also do what I do, to provoke, to do insertion, to intervention, and also fake things to really make people aware of something and like raise their head, like, oh, that can't be, or to educate them as well. And it's, I mean, every tool as well, it be social media. I love to have Facebook. I mean, Facebook is done by a big evil corporation, but at the same time it's very useful to do counterculture. And also to connect internationals, like the whole connection with Rose McGowan for my last film came through Facebook, who just followed my war against the Austrian state to fight sexual violence. And then suddenly at midnight, there was this chat window at Facebook went up, and like Rose McGowan and me, like you're the real Rose McGowan, like it is with Facebook. And then suddenly a friendship came from that. So this wouldn't have worked 10 years before without these tools. So it's a great thing to really get minds together that are unbound by managements, by international regional codes, I mean, the internet has done a lot of good, like the whole social media has done good. They've also done a lot of evil, but as any tool or any media, just use it to the benefit of it, or to the benefit of all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now I'm going back to, you said about investigative journalism and how your research can actually be a form of journalism, or you, Michael, that you talked about how to be also an educator, and you as well with all the educational programs that they were also part and co-created together. So in order to be an artist and a storyteller, do you need to have a second ID as well, being a journalist at the same time or being an educator at the same time, in order to be more effective in what you are doing?
What do you mean with second idea?
I mean like that you are a filmmaker mostly, no?
Yeah. But it's very interesting to also be a recognized political journalist on TV, because like I have to be very serious doing that.
Okay,
but
and
at
you
the same time, with my last 2 documentaries, it's like one of the main state politicians was thrown out of his job because one of the documentaries. So there's a similar effect on my art.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I understand, that the other identities that you also are having is very important for your work, like education through virtual reality. It's not only about showing an issue, it's about how you can have a second cycle, a life cycle of the story through education, for example.
Yeah, it's for me, it's I cannot put myself doing one thing. I cannot really put myself in a box and say I'm doing this or doing that. I would like to focus on the education, because I think it's important today. Because many people do things for political, commercial reasons, and not really for creating a better place, a better world, a better future. That we need really to think about it and to work all together to do it. Not only earning money, of course, that it's important. And the thing is that VR for me, it's a real tool to create everything that it's impossible. And today there's many things that we see as impossible to fix, and maybe this could help to open a new way to fix it, even if we don't really see it today. But you know, it's a way.
Yeah, but the roles that, same as me. I think I agree with Michael that, I don't want to fit in roles and to have set formulas that I just implement to people. I'd like to go and investigate, and experiment and play. Actually, play is the right word, because it opens paths when you have this playful attitude towards life and the attitude to learn. Because as I said before, is in this co-creation thing, like you are ready for improvisation. You are ready to, instead of having a methodology and implement it in every environment that you're visiting, you want to work with, you're trying to adjust to the environment and the things that are coming and the set of ideas that are arousing, and you see what you can do out of it, And this, on one hand, is very dangerous because might nothing come up, but at the same time, it's full of life, And as I said before, in this kind of thing, I think also about change, especially because we see it happen, And I think there was one writer that said this, that we need, the less powerful to speak as much as they listen, and the powerful to listen as much as they speak. So when you give them voice and you give them a tools and you give them, we are in prison and we just just have a paper and we try to set in paper what their stories are. And there were people that they never had color, they never had, they never draw a line, they never. And they never express anything out of them. It's incredible, and suddenly they do that, and it's magical, and it works. And I don't know the question what was, but anyway, yeah.
I was wondering if you have a question also for our friends, or any stories that have actually helped you, take action and be part of this venture. Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the dilemma between exposing your work through social media and the short attention span that you have, and you have to limit yourself to, and the depth of the subject that you have to deal with, and how you can avoid to banalize, to make a subject seem very banal, just another advertisement, just another little documentary that somebody sees, that is lost in the chaos of other little documentaries and other little videos that someone sees, and delve into the passion that you have. Obviously, one answer is the quality of the work that you do as an artist. But for me, that I am not perhaps as good an artist as you may be, do you have any other words of wisdom, anything else that any other part of answer?
To me, it was the main thing to work against the banality was make whatever you do a statement, because that's what makes it prevail in history or with society or with people. It's like when I did this interview film with this woman about sexual violence, it's like I had 15 years of TV work in my back as well, and you get conditioned. Like everybody all over the world gets conditioned looking at interviews. One person, one statement, not longer than 25 seconds, because that's attention span, and like we're conditioned to not think beyond that. So it was the idea of doing a 2-hour interview film without a cut. Just shove the fucking face into their faces, let them listen to it, learn from them. It's like you need to sit there and watch this woman, listen to this woman for 2 hours, and then you get beyond this conditioning. That's why you make what you do a statement. That's where it can grow with the people out there. I think that's the difference you need to hit.
Yeah, I have an opposite approach than Paul, but I think it's there's somehow during the way they come across as well. I mean, for me, I really try not to do films that have a message or a statement. I try to see how these boundaries between fiction and reality are very subtle, and how there is, you know, like an underground war that is hiding and is lying out there, and you have to go there with very how you say, very subtle steps, you know. And it's very enigmatic and it's very mysterious, and you have to risk yourself. You have to know the symbolism of the work. You have to think. You have to have an open heart and a free mind, you know. But everything is like everything is hiding underneath. I mean, for me, the big question whenever I do a documentary is like, you know, how to not to document reality, but how to reveal reality. And in a way, you know, like reality hides somewhere in the small details and in the corners of the world that it's coming towards us, you know. And we have to really to dig inside to find these, you know, these diamonds that they're lying deep down in the ground. So I have a really different way of approaching the reality in the films, but I really understand also what Paul says, and I respect this kind of filmmaking as well.
Well, for me, it's important question that don't have one answer, because how can we force somebody to look at our work? We cannot force anybody to look at something. We can use gimmicks, we can use statements, we can use, everybody wants to be special. Everybody wants to be looked at. But in one point, we have to understand that what we do, also it's to show to people, but mainly it's because we want to do it. And it's important for us. And if it's important, and if we come with integrity, with honest, and with our own power, it will reach someday, you know, even if it's not now. Even if I have only 2 likes, or somebody even, you know, click on my webpage to see my work that I worked for 10 years for it. You know, it's a frustrating world that, as we say, we have so many people that have so many things that, you know, we have to continue, even if we...
Any other questions? Okay, let's wrap this up a little bit. Yes, you want to say something?
If somebody wants to see a film, a VR film, I have a headset here, so everybody that wants to see some films can reach me out after and see some films.
And one last question. What are the stories that you are working on right now? What is your next story?
I'm working on several films. It's like I'm mostly also I'm moving to narrative fictional films. At the moment, I'm working like there was a big scandal in Austria about foster homes. Like we have a whole lost generation. It involves like 180,000 kids that were like in foster homes of the church and the state. That were like abused. Foster homes, yeah.
When a child has been molested, then it goes to another family and it's in the foster system, right?
Yeah, no, but basically they were taken away from the parents out of like pure will of the state.
Okay.
It was a whole generation from the 50s to the 80s that were like that were made foster children just to have them as cheap workforce. They were abused, they're bully abused. There was a big corrupt system of having them exchanged all through the country, and to a degree, like the state says it ended in the 80s, but in fact it didn't. It's still underneath the surface in a different way. So it's like, and it was just unveiled 10 years ago by an autobiography by one of the kids that grew up and learned to fight against it. And that is like that made the state do it like in parliament. There was a big excuse of state members and all politicians there to say sorry to the kids and like put an extra rent for all the victims of this whole thing. And so I'm now doing like a fictional film, like an anti-Heidi.
Okay.
About like the dark side of picturesque Austrian rural kitsch.
And where are you now? You are in production?
Financing, like I'm doing this, like if you know him, Peter Zeitlinger, he's like the cameraman of Werner Herzog.
Okay.
He's like the cameraman and co-producer, and we're just piecing that together. So that's the most advanced one of that.
Okay.
It's like documentary-wise, I only have one documentary. That's very peculiar because it's also like a very provocative LGBTI film, because it's about like a extreme right-wing transgender military guy with
wow.
Nazi conspiracy theories. So it's like
Wow.
Scary.
Exactly.
I would like to speak to him.
But he's a fascinating person. She.
Yeah. We have somebody like that in France.
And you, Michael, what are you working on right now?
Well, I'm also working on different projects, also my own personal project, building spheres. I'm working on educational reconstruction of history for education, virtual reality. I work also with several agencies, support for VR and teaching VR. I'm working also with International Virtual Reality Professional Association for also education in the professional field, for education, the new film generation or collaboration with the new media to understand how to use this for their own use, and also for my personal project also that I want to do about education for racism or religious racism, that it's today it's coming back, unfortunately, and it's affecting and well, as the history of my family that was very affected by it, that were killed in the concentration camps, I would not like it to happen again, and would like to contribute for a better future and a better education against those forces that coming back to Europe right now.
And you, Stratis, what are you working on right now?
I do. We were doing. We're trying to do in prison again. We're trying to put the youth in the prison, and under in a co-creation way to, on one hand, to use the youth as a working space that people do some art or construct some things. And then build a network that they can sell or exhibit elsewhere. And the other thing I want to do is like to do a geography, an anti-geography of the space of the prison, both in pragmatic terms, but also in fictional terms with the prisoners, and create like fictional films that we can create, you know, like a mosaic of these stories in the form of a web doc, you know, and maybe, if possible, use VR as well, you know. I want to learn more after this as a team, and personally, I do 2 photography books, and I do also a documentary film about people that they have Alzheimer's, yes. Dementia. Yeah.
Okay, I want to wish you all very good luck with all of your projects. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and be here in Lyon with us. Really, really thank you. And thank you also for taking the time and be here with us early in the morning on Friday morning. So thank you very much.